Hi, welcome. This is the Evolved Educator podcast. Each episode, we talk about education and teaching. Our goal is for you to feel part of the community, and we want to learn from you, and we hope that you learn something from us too. So, welcome. And today, we're going to be talking about assessment of learning and assessment for learning. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Michelle.
I'm Chanmi.
So, hi. So you know what? I saw this cartoon, which I shared with you, and I'll describe it very quickly. So it's two little boys and a dog. The dog's name is Stripe. And one little boy says, "I taught Stripe how to whistle." And the other little boy says, "I don't hear him whistling." And the first little boy says, I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. It's funny, but not funny. So this brings us to our segment, what did you get on the test? And so you know that we're in this kind of fun transformational stage of education where the adults, including teachers, they all learned a certain way. They learned that they needed to understand facts. Mm-hmm. And it's been like that for more than 100 years. The classroom and teaching looked mostly the same. Right. But not so much anymore, not in the 21st century.
I know. So like the teachers were the dispensers of information and knowledge, right? So they covered topics and then they transmitted that information to the students. And there was even this idea that the students who can will learn.
Right.
So, when, we're talking about assessments, we're really talking about tests, and they were used for the purpose of like giving grades. And then there was that right answer. And it was, you got it or you didn't get it.
Yeah, the dreaded right answer. It's true. And so now, we've talked about this many times. Companies now really want people who can solve problems and think through, to the potential solutions. It's not that the world doesn't need right answers, but they need new answers and new ideas.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not like there's just one answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's also about like identifying what is this problem. I mean, it's a lot about the thinking. It's about the process.
Yes.
That comes from divergent thinking. So we're living in this very interesting times where, like we said, the adults learned with this idea to find this single answer, but our students need to learn the skills to work collaboratively and to identify problems and then work to solve problems. And like you just said, there might be more than one solution to a problem. Mm-hmm. Maybe the solution to a problem today works, but next year you're going to have to figure it out again. Mm-hmm. It is so much change so fast. And this is why we need to teach our students how to think. But how do you do that? I think for teaching, it's that this idea of instruction and assessment are really one, that they're intertwined, and that instruction is learner-centered.
It's students mastering the learning objectives,
mm-hmm.
and they're actually synthesizing the information into knowledge, the contextual knowledge that can be then applied to real life.
Right. But then instead of the assessments being this end of activity or end of unit one and done kind of a thing, assessments are now what you actually use to make improvements. And so you connect it to the content and instruction, but you're also using it to promote that learning and to diagnose the problem areas. So you use assessments during your instruction, informally and formally, to be able to have that dipstick and check for understanding to see if the kids are getting what you're teaching and the instruction's actually sticking, right? You have to make sure that you have to assess to see if the learning is sticking.
And so then that makes the emphasis become more about generating better questions. The students are generating better questions and learning from their mistakes. So I think the overall lesson here is that assessments are what drives instruction and learning. And so if students know the learning goal, they know where they're supposed to land, and they're given time to achieve that goal with opportunities to revisit, which you've done that because you're taking little, like you said, little dips in what's going on along the way. And they're given the opportunity to retry, then they're set up for success.
Right.
So that brings us to our end of the segment. Do you have a strategy that gets the W for us?
Yes, I liked this one. It's very simple. You make a T-chart, the students make a T-chart, or you could do it as a whole class all together. And the students separate what they do and they don't understand. And I like this because a lot of times students, ideas are very complex, and students focus on the thing that they quote unquote get, they understand, and they dismiss the things that they still might have questions about because, right, you understand it, that feels good. So how it's very simple. The students make a T-chart. One side they write what they do understand, and then the other side they write what they still have questions about, or what they still don't understand. And I know this might sound very simple, but it's very challenging for people to reflect and think about what they still don't know. But the goal is for the students and the teacher to gain insight on what they do and what they don't understand. The more they practice this type of evaluation, they'll become better at asking questions. And that's really the end goal here, is to ask questions, because when you can ask questions, you can identify the problem. And then you ask more questions and you can work on solving the problem.
I love that. I think it's a great idea. I think with young kids especially, they sometimes get embarrassed to admit that they don't know something or don't understand it. And so if you're having everybody participate in an activity like that, a lot of times what you'll find is several students will have the same thing that they don't understand. So it makes them, it does build their confidence. Like, look, I'm not the only one. Several of us didn't get this. And it's also informing you of, what you need to know to move to the next, as you're moving into the next part of the lesson.
Right. And the student, because as a student moves forward, then they know where to direct their thinking. Exactly. I mean, it's just good. Yeah.
Right. So that's like the way for students to assess themselves and to know how to diagnose their own understanding, which is what we want them to be able to do eventually. So it's not only the teacher doing that, but the student doing that themselves.
Well, and it's a habit of mind too. That's one of those life skills that we talk about. If you're stopping when you're learning something new and reflecting on it and saying, oh, wait, I still don't get this part. If you do that often enough, it does become a habit, and that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye.